WVTC Radio Detroit. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, X, and our website, www.wvtcdetroit.com, or download our WVTC app from the Play Store for Android users and the App Store for iPhone users.
Allow anything to distract you from the will of God. If you have bad things on in your life, understand Jesus said, let me tell you something, Father, I'll go if you give me a...
Elevate your financial wisdom with Reverend Dr. Jim Holley Ministries presents where wisdom meets wealth, faith meets finance, and purpose meets prosperity. For over 5 decades, Pastor Emeritus Dr. Jim Holley has been a guiding light in Detroit, attracting over $50 million in business ventures and creating hundreds of jobs and opportunities. During this hour, Dr. Jim Holley is sharing decades of financial wisdom with you. Lean in as he helps you find dollars for your dreams and bring sense to your sense.
Reverend Jim Holley's International Ministries introduces 2 new publications. The Spirit Speaks, 365 Days in Quotation of Affirmation, and A Saved City is a Safe City. Resources and Bible classes around the country. Purchase your book today for $14.95 or receive both for only $27.95. Call her right now while supplies last. Reverend Jim Holley, 258 East Milwaukee Street, Box 27, Detroit, Michigan, 48202 or 313-871-2800.
Once again, I thank God for each and every one of you, for this is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. This program on Saturdays afternoons for the next few weeks will be about economics. A few years ago, I wrote a book called When the Vision is Bigger Than the Budget. It's been very well received by many people. I thought maybe somehow, some kind of way, looking at the status of our community and what's going on with our churches right now, perhaps I need to bring this back and really deal with this in more of a setting of really trying to make sure that I'm able to not only talk and to teach, but perhaps give you what I've learned down through the years about business as far as the church is concerned. Our present condition and circumstances in no way reflects God's goodness and His purpose in our church. When you look around and see, for the most part, many of our churches really sitting, almost like what you call a war zone, abandoned houses, abandoned areas where business is not there, and yet we're there and seem to be so happy with the church being basically the only person or the only business or institution in the community. This is not to be critical, it's just basically an observation. And I just feel like somehow, some kind of way, that I'm able to have the experience down through the years and also have met so many people that I feel I want to bring them to you, how we all can help each other when it comes down to really giving opportunity in economics for our churches. I want you to understand it's very important that somehow, some kind of way, we understand that our churches are very important. And it's not only important for spiritually, but also liberation for our people. So I want you to understand that these few weeks that we have together, I want to make sure to put it on your schedule, that you will be with me, not only through the weeks in terms of spirituality and for preaching and teaching, but on Saturdays, I want to bring in economics. I think it's very important. We have like $1.6 trillion in disposable income, and yet have nothing to show for it. Again, this is not to be critical. It's just basically to talk about what we need to talk about in terms of how we can better ourselves through our churches and our nonprofits. So I want you to really call somebody, maybe a pastor, maybe someone that runs a nonprofit, and they're able to talk to them and understand that down through these next few weeks, it may be about 3 or 4 months, we'll be doing this thing that we call economics, because we're going to bring people to you that basically can help each and every one of us. Certainly, it's difficult for me to have the resources to bring people around the state together at one place. But I thought maybe I could use this time that I have on television to be able to reach many of you, thousands of you, to be able to understand somehow, some kind of way, the church as an institution need to certainly do more for our community and more for our people. And like many of us want to do it, just don't know how to do it. Don't know the word, but where we can get the resources from. Again, it's because the vision is bigger than the budget. And somehow, some kind of way, I want to make sure we find out where the money is, where the grants are, and how we can get people to help us with people, grant writers, be able to really talk to us and really work with our churches. And so this is what we're going to be doing on Saturday afternoons for a while. I've been spiritually, really spiritually guided and spiritually sort of like given me the direction of what I need to do at this point in my life. Must understand, God's been very good to me. And certainly, and not only good to me, but good to my family and good to many of you that I have had experience with. And somehow, some kind of way, I want you to understand, we need to do more for our people, do more for our community, and certainly invest more in our children. In Luke, the 4th chapter, verse 18 and 19, I'm just going to paraphrase it because of time. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me. What does the Spirit of the Lord is on us? What do He want us to do? Those of us have been called into ministry. This is Jesus speaking to the congregation that basically He's now announcing His ministry, announcing exactly His purpose and His destination. He says to preach the gospel to the poor. Not only preach the gospel to the poor, but heal the brokenhearted. To proclaim liberty to the captives. To recover the sight to the blind. Liberation to the oppressed. Liberation to the oppressed. To proclaim the acceptable year of the Lord. And certainly I'm proclaiming the acceptable year of the Lord is right now in 2024. My sister and brother, I know that you're concerned as well as I am about the state of our community, about the state of our churches. Certainly about 33% of our churches have gone out of business for one reason or another, certainly coming out of the pandemic. And certainly when you talk about COVID-19 and all the things that have taken place, not only with death, but also the death of institutions and businesses as well as the church itself. And these are not my figures. These are the figures that basically is by the Pew Research Center. So I want you to understand, we want to make sure that we'll be on top of this and really understand it's about planning. And if we plan, if you don't plan, you plan to fail. And that's the only way you can stop failing is to plan. And somehow, some kind of way, I want to be able to get information to you. That's all it is, just get information to you and understand somehow, some kind of way. When we look around us in our community and see poverty, abandoned houses, abandoned lands, a community like war zones, the church, for the most part, is in the midst of all of that. So we got churches sitting right in a community that has nothing around it, and we're still so happy. We're so happy. And somehow, some kind of way, how as a people can we go into our churches and leave our churches to go home and know that our church, for the most part, is not basically trying to be building the community around you. Again, I want you to understand, I want to be very careful. This is not to be critical. I'm just talking about what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about anyone personally or any church personally. I should understand, I think all of us, many of us, and not all of us, at least many of us, want to do more for our people and certainly for our churches. How can we make a difference? That's the thing we need to talk about here. How can we make a difference? How we together can make a difference? And somehow, some kind of way, we need to talk to each other. And I don't have all the answers. I'm not going to sit here and insult your intelligence as if I have all the answers. I do not. I know many of you have much to offer to this whole scenario and this whole problem that we have in economics and in our community. And so somehow, some kind of way, we want to be able to fix this up where we can talk to each other and have a conversation of what we can do and how we can pull our resources together. And that's what the question is. How can we make a difference? How can we make a difference? I remember the blind man that basically by the roadside really called on Jesus. and got Jesus' attention. And when he got Jesus' attention, Jesus said, well, what you want me to do for you? What you want? What do you want? What is your desire? What is your need? Of course, the blind man said that I might see. Well, Jesus knew there was an option there. You're also blind and also a beggar. But the man chose his blindness not to give me some money, because obviously what he needed to have sight for, so he could basically take care of himself. And this is the thing I think we must understand, that Jesus gives us everything we can. God gives us everything we need in order to help our people. And the question, how do we tap into the resources that God has there, not only in heaven, but also the resources he have here on earth? I remember the man by the pool of Bethesda. He had been there for 38 years. I mean, he'd been there before Jesus was born. And then here comes Jesus, and he's been there 38 years. And when he sees Jesus, he says to him, nobody's trying to help me in there. Nobody. I've been here for 38 years, and every time I get closer, when the water gets disturbed, and I better get into trying to get in there, somebody gets in before me. And so I've been here struggling. Well, I would ask the question, well, you could have rolled over in 38 years and got to the water. You could have inched your way to the water. After 38 years, and somehow I really believe the man got complacent and got a sense of helplessness as well as hopelessness. And Jesus comes in and basically talks to the man and says, well, what do you want? And so Jesus said, I'm going to make you whole. I want you to understand that this is not just to give you economics, but also to give you help. But I want you to understand you need your health as well as your wealth. And I want you to understand, my sisters and brothers, somehow, some kind of way, we must realize that nobody's going to help us but us. Can I say that again? Nobody's going to help us. Nobody's going to help us but us. So this is what I want to talk about. I want to share with you, and I hope that somehow, some kind of way, you'll call someone and know that every Saturday when we're going to be talking about economics. Understand somehow, some kind of way, I want to bring in people who have resources. I want to bring people who have where the grants are. I want to bring in people who have done this and done it successfully, and we'll get their story. Because what God does for one, he can do for another. You must understand, I remember how God blessed me to have cookies on Northwest Airlines before Delta bought Northwest. And because I got tired of begging. Just got tired of begging, going from one foundation to another. And so many people were basically at the door at the foundations, and I was late, or they ran out of resources. I remember one time that General Motors Foundation told me they didn't have any more money. I couldn't believe that. And when they told me that, I felt like somehow, some kind of way, I better do something other than sitting around here expecting somebody else to help me in my ministry. I wanted to send kids to school and to college. I wanted to build a college. I wanted to build a school. I wanted to do so much for the community, so much for my people that I love so much. And I'm just saying to you, somehow, some kind of way, you must understand that that came about. Those cookies on Northwest Airlines, potato chips in stores throughout Michigan. I want you to understand, I'm not here bragging and telling you, give you this story just to and sort of like build myself up. No, I just want you to understand what God can do for each and every one of us. I'm no better than you. I'm just somebody that really knows somebody and trying to tell somebody about Jesus Christ. That's who I am. And I say to you again, somehow, some kind of way, when we talk about economics and the church, and many people don't even deal with that. Many of our pastors don't even deal with that. It's just in the pulpit and to the Wednesday night prayer meeting or whatever that night is, and that's it. And our people are oppressed. Our people are poor, and somehow, some kind of way, are not educated. So I want you to understand again, this is not to be insulting you or trying to basically to criticize anyone. It's basically just to say to you, I know we can do better. I just feel deep down in my heart that we can do better. And I feel like also at the same time, we're running out of time. Good God Almighty, yes, we're running out of time. When you look and see what's going on in this country, you see about 6 or 8 million immigrants are coming into this country, and understand they're taking our place. They're now getting to be about 22% of the population, and we're still 11% of the population. Who you think is going to get the benefits? And they're already getting the benefits. And we've been here for a couple hundred years, and we've been free and economically free for about 75 years. In 75 years, people did more with less, and we got more and doing less. So again, I say to you again, somehow, some kind of way, we need to lift up our bow down heads and not be victims and be victorious, because we got somebody, and that somebody is our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. So as I talk about the economics and the church, I'm saying to you again, I really feel that time is running out for the black church to create a sound economic foundation for the future of our children and the future that we can stand on. In order to address this situation, a mission and a purpose-driven mandate should be designed to the freedom to call for the people that really need a helping hand. And the church can do it. The church can do it. If leadership in our church can do it. For many years, I've been quietly observed the state of affairs of the black church. And not only the black church, but the black ministry, the black church conventions, and the black fraternities and sororities. Essentially, it is all about the person and not the people. It's about holding conventions in hotels that's owned by others. And other ethnic groups, we are basically complaining, and other ethnic groups have the hotel and that we're having our conventions in. And understand, we year after year, I always wondered about that. I always wondered about somehow, some kind of way, down through the years, it been a preacher going to convention after convention, whether it's state or national, going into hotels, and we never thought about buying our own hotel, never thought about buying a place where we can have our own headquarters, nothing like that. And so we give millions of dollars over the years to hotels that we don't own. We just owe in, but we don't owe W in. And something is wrong with that. Something was wrong with it before, and it's still something that's wrong with it now. So I want to talk about some principles that I want you to consider with me in this time that we have together. Just a few principles that we're going to talk about, and that you can basically just resonate in somehow, some kind of way, how we, for the most part, can just think about it. I mean, we cannot leave it to others to provide the vision of the provision of the vision. We can't leave it to others. So many times when pastors come into the church, what is the vision of the church? When you see what's going on in the community, and you see the people in your church, when new pastors come in, do you really take a survey and see what the people really want? And if they don't want anything, what do you want? And somehow, some kind of way, what is your vision for the church? What's your vision for the community? And somehow we must understand, it's just not going in the pulpit and just preaching and preaching and preaching and singing and singing and singing, and we're going to heaven anyway, and our people, for the most part, are oppressed and in poverty, and you're not doing anything to basically give them the incentive to do better. I say to you again, somehow, some kind of way, we must make the initiative to somehow, how do we make an initiative to match the vision that we have for our people? My sisters and brothers, we have so many politicians that come into our churches, and they get into positions, but they don't change the condition. Can I say that again? So many politicians come in our church, year after year, decade after decade, come into our churches and basically and get the position, and it's in that position for a long time, but never to do anything about the condition of the people that they represent. If anything, they do something just for others. I say to you again, what is your vision for your community? What's your vision, for your family? What's your vision for for the church. Have we thought about that? And I say to you again, if you shoot for the moon and fall among the stars, you're still on high ground. And somehow, you got to lift up the people in your congregation, their attitude, their mentality, that you're God's child. And if you're God's child, and we preach it and sing it, and that we talk about what a mighty God we serve, and yet we are still in the situation where we are right now, as I indicated to you in the beginning of the program, $1.66 trillion, and we still have nothing to show for it. I mean, when you look and see that most likely that's we have more money than Canada has for their national budget. If we were a people in a state or a people that has their own state, we would probably be the eighth or ninth state in this country. I'm just saying to you as again, God has blessed us in a mighty, mighty way. He's blessed us in a mighty, mighty way, and we have not taken advantage of it. I want you to understand, again, what is the vision for your people? What's the vision for your church? What's the vision for your community? Have you brought the community together and asked them what they're thinking? I say to you again, we've got to make sure we do some self-help initiative to match the vision that we have. I know what you're saying. Well, Reverend, I got visions, but I don't have the provision for the vision. And we talking about we're God's people, and God, and we know God, and God knows us, and we worship Him Sunday after Sunday, teach Bible class and everything else we do in the church, and yet we're telling me that we don't know where the provision is going to come from. My sisters and brothers, don't ever sell yourself short, and don't ever feel like God is not there to help us. That's what it's not just He wants us to be liberated. That's what was the anointing of I come to preach is liberation. Not only liberation in terms of your soul, but liberation in terms of your wealth, your resources. What is the vision of leadership? What's the vision of the congregation? We witness day after day poverty, human suffering. And yet we are noble people. We are you know where God brought us from? I mean, do you know where God brought us from? I'm just talking about just from Mississippi to Detroit, or North Carolina to Detroit, or to Chicago. I'm not just talking about that. I'm talking about where God really brought us from. And yet we have this sense of hopelessness, and we know that we know God, and God knows us, and we have this sense of hopelessness. I'm telling you, this is not what it's all about. I want you to understand that somehow start thinking big. Start thinking big. I mean, you've been in a hoopy for year after year, and you satisfied with it. You basically got a apartment that basically you got 5 family members, and all of you in one bedroom or 2-bedroom apartment. Don't you think you ought to have a house? Don't you think God wants you to be able to do, and all we have to do is just do what He says through His Word, be obedient, be faithful, and trustworthy? I just say to you again, my sister, brother, I just want to be able to be a blessing to you as God has blessed me. I want to be a blessing to you. The direction of the people should be provided by God. Look what Moses did to the people of Israel. And understand that Israel was basically captive, and God liberated them. But Moses went down and said, "There's no time to have a meeting. There's no time to talk about we're going to put committees together." The vision was already there, and when Moses went down, he told them, "This is what God wants." And that's what leadership is all about. This is what leadership is all about. You talk to God, God talks to you, and you talk to the people. I know people can talk to God without you and me. I understand that. But in terms of leadership, I mean, Martin Luther King has been gone for almost 6 decades now. And we're still talking about the dream. We're still talking about, and nothing has happened. Nothing has changed that I can see. And so I say to you again that these are the principles that I want you to think about. God's ability, not my ability, should be our maximum. With God, all things are possible. We preach it, we teach it, we do. Then we ought to practice it. We ought to practice what we believe, practice what we preach. And I just say to you again, when we fail to plan, you plan to fail. That's all I'm trying to tell you. And so again, as I say to you, and those of you just joining us at this particular time, on this Saturday for a few weeks, we're going to talk about the church, the economics, and the church. How we can basically take the institution that God has given us and really liberate our people and liberate our community. How can we basically build our community around the church, and so that we can basically understand that's what God is blessing the community, not just the church, but He's blessing the community. I remember a few years ago when the mayor of Detroit basically the city was running out of money. They were talking about bankruptcy. They didn't close the recreation center next to the church. They're going to board it up. I got word from the recreation department that they were going to close Constantine Recreation Center, and they're going to board it up. And I looked at that, and I looked at that. I looked up to heaven, to God. You mean tell me we're going to have a boarded up building next to the church on Woodward Avenue? Are you kidding me? And so I called the mayor and called the recreation department. We had a meeting. Let me take it over. If you don't want it and can't handle it, he said, well, if we give it to you, Reverend, understand, we're not going to ever do nothing for you. You'll never get anything from us. Don't think we're going to give you grants. And you won't. If you take it, you got to do it. You got to. With God's help, we can do it. I'm not going to have a boarded up building next to the church. It's an insult. It's an insult. And so when you go to the building, the Constantine Recreation Center, and you can see we still have it. We still have it. I don't know about tomorrow, but today we still have it. And I'm just saying to you again, my sisters and brothers, understand this is I feel is what God wants us to do, and that is not only just have church, but have service, and we worship in the church, but we go out to service the community. Let me ask you this: have you not agonized over our dependence of others? I mean, have you ever that we always depended on somebody else as a people? I mean, again, I'm not trying to be critical or anything, but have you ever agonized over the fact is that they start talking about the Native Americans now, giving them scholarships, but for the most part, we're the only people that basically asking for people to help our children go to college, and we got historical black colleges and all of that. And we got disposable income, and many of the historical colleges failed and closed because we didn't support them. I'm just saying to you, nobody's going to save us from us but us. I want you to understand that. And so I ask you, don't you get concerned about you have to be dependent on other ethnic groups? My sisters and brothers, that's the reason why I begin to get into this economic thing and try to make sure that we basically have economics for profit to feed the nonprofit. Because somehow, some kind of way, you come to realize after General Motors told me the foundation didn't have no money that particular year, I knew we were in trouble. And the whole city was in trouble, not the nation. I couldn't believe it. And I'm just saying to you again, somehow, some kind of way, we need to do that. I mean, just visualize this. Just walk with me now. Just walk with me. Visualize this. This going to really, you're going to think, it's going to make you think a little bit. Visualize this. We wake up in the morning, and we wake up in the morning, a clock that's made by Electric General. I mean, we wake up in the morning by a clock that's made by Electric General. We crawl out of our beds with sheets made by Canada Mills. We walk across the carpet made by Armstrong. We go to the bathroom, turn up the faucet, and the shower control made by American Standard Company. We use soap by Procter Gamble. We use towels that were made by, most likely, My Pillow Guy. We basically have shave with Gillette and Schick razors. Brush our teeth with Colgate and use mouthwash Scope. And have deodorant by Johnson. I want you to understand, and yet we have $1.6 trillion of disposable income, and we don't have soup, we don't have toothpaste or soap, a soap company, or a toothpaste company, or anything like that, that basically we use every single day. Every single day. Can you imagine that? I'm just saying to you again, my son, we must realize that somehow, some kind of way, this is it. This is where we are. And here we are in 2024. And I remember Mr. Faircon used to have toiletries, like toothpaste and soap and things like that. And he was making them and selling them. They weren't just selling bean pies. They out there talking about selling toothpaste because he couldn't put them in the store because of who he was. They wouldn't allow him. But he used his soldiers to do that. And I'm just saying to you, because he understood economics. He understood economics. And I'm saying to you again, even Martin Luther King, I remember when he started Operation Breadbasket, and had Jesse Jackson to basically point him to over economics of Operation Breadbasket. That was the economic arm of SELC, because he understood that yes, we got to be able to liberate people, but after liberated, we also got to make sure they're dependent. They're not dependent on someone else. They're independent, and somehow, some kind of way, leader after leader comes to us. And we're still in the same boat that we've been in down through the years. I want you to understand, for decades, as I indicated to you earlier, we preach in churches, state conventions, national conventions, and we serve, and we talk about what a great God we serve, and yet we're in these conventions, and what hotels do we own? What places do we have in terms of basically where we can have our own? We're there every year, and all. You mean we have 12 or 13 conventions of all denominations, and somehow we couldn't come together and buy one building? My sisters and brothers, I'm just talking what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about anybody. Not trying to be critical, but I want to raise this question to you and me. How is it that we're in the state of economic depression as we are, and yet we got so much going for us? We got so much going for us. God supplies all of our needs, desires of our heart. These are things that basically we know is true. We know it's true. And if we believe it, then we ought to practice it. Understand, we have all these things taking place, and for the most part, we realize, my son, brother, yet we seem to have less, and seem to, for the most part, have all the advantages that we had down through the years, and now other people are coming in. We were about next, and now we're back on the back burner now. Look what's going on in this country. Look what's going on. Look at the things that's going on with the migration, immigrants who are coming into the city, into the country. You think this not going to help? It's going to hurt you? Going to help you? I don't think so. I don't think so. Do they really care? Who cares about us? If you don't care about yourself, why do you think somebody else is going to have your back, or have your agenda? They're not here. They're here. Every community. Before we got in our community, there were 2 or 3 ethnic groups before we got here. And I'm not going to go over it in terms of, but I'm just telling, when I came to Detroit in 1969, I remember the stores were owned by about the Middle Easterners. And somehow, some kind of way, I mean, they would have shotguns up there because they're making sure we wasn't stealing and all this kind of stuff. And I'm just saying to you, in our own community, and then when we open up our stores, open up our grocery stores and all this kind of stuff, we used to have something like a Myers owned by a black man. And he went out of business because for the most part, he was not supported. I remember I used to be a partner with Mahalia Jackson. Can you believe that? Yes. Ben Hooks, myself, and Mahalia Jackson used to have our own chicken called Mahalia Jackson chicken. In that particular time, Colonel Sanders' Kentucky Fried Chicken was very popular and was going all over the country. And on Oakland Avenue in Detroit, and they would go to the people past Mahalia Jackson chicken, which is much better chicken, and it was good chicken. I mean, it was good chicken. And basically go to Kentucky Fried Chicken, and there we were, our chicken in the freezer for the world, and we went out of business because we weren't supported. We really weren't supported. You know who we sold it to? A country person in Nashville, Tennessee, a country singer in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm just telling you, because if we have the business, do we support it? Do we really support it? And I'm just saying to you, so we must understand this whole mentality that we have, that we hurt each other, we talk about each other, we kill each other, we rob each other. All of this mentality that we have, because it's something in our DNA that basically we just don't. I don't like myself. Instead, I don't like myself. I'm certainly going to not like you. I say to you again, this is not to be critical. It's not to be talking about anybody. It's just for observation and make you think. Somehow, some kind of way, we got to make a difference in our, not only in our community, in our churches, but also in our community. I want you to understand, we must somehow not maintain this poverty mentality. And so many times our children, they see this stuff. When they go to school, they see abandoned land, abandoned houses. We see people as they go to school. What do they see? What's in their observation? Can they be this? Can they be that? Everything they see has got to be on television. I'm just seeing too somehow we got this mentality of poverty. And I want you to understand, we are somebody. We are somebody. We have $1.6 trillion as supposable income. We get and buy everything we want. I'm not going to take time out and go over what you buy, how much liquor you buy, how much this you buy, how much that you buy, how many lotteries you buy. I'm not going to go over that. I just want you to understand and start thinking about the fact how we can do better. And this is what this Saturday is going to be for the next few weeks. Understand again, without being redundant, nobody's going to save us from us but us. No ethnic group have no invested interest in our economic freedom. Why should they? Why should they? Why would any ethnic group be more concerned about your economics? Why? Why do you think they would be? I say to you again, we have it. We have everything we need. We just need to work and pull ourselves together. I remember that I had about 37 people at a meeting with the Detroit Growth Corporation. And I asked them to come in. I made sure everybody had at least $500,000 to $1 million, to $500,000 to about $5 million. Each and every one, I made sure research indicated they had the resource. All 7,037 of them, 37 people had anywhere from $500,000 to $5 million. And we went there. I made sure I wasn't going to be involved. I just there like everybody else. I had the Economic Growth Committee to basically to run the meeting, fed them, all of that. And we started talking about how we can have one building that we can own. At this particular time, Glenn Gibbert basically had about 67 buildings in Detroit. And I was trying to get us to buy just one. We fed them. We talked and talked and talked, and then finally they realized who's going to run it, what we're going to name it. We went on and on and on, and came out with nothing. I was so disappointed. Here's one man had 67 buildings in Detroit, and I was trying to get just one building that we can call our own. We had people that had McDonald's and Burger King restaurants. They were there, so I knew they know how to run a restaurant. And we had a restaurant in this particular building, and we even gave them the building, let them see the building that we're talking about. And then I knew they were there. That we had people that will have offices there. There were lawyers, businessmen, church preachers, all of that. And yet we could not come up with the idea that we have just one building, resources to have one building. We could have done it. We could have borrowed the money if we just put the resources down, a down payment. We could have done it. We showed them, but we didn't want to work. They didn't want to work together. So if the leadership doesn't work together, then you imagine what the fellowship, what they're going to do. I applaud those of you who are doing well. I applaud you. I thank God for you. But there's so many of us not doing that well. And this is why I want to have this conversation and have this seminar on Saturday afternoons for the next 3 or 4 weeks or whatever number it may take. Understand, we're going to be talking about embarking upon a business support, the outreach ministry. We're going to talk about from an antiquated ministry to a modern ministry. We're going to talk about the Great Divide. We're going to talk about the manner of community development. We're going to talk about funding and underfunded vision, the need for profit and the need for nonprofit. We're going to talk about why churches should be more involved in business. We're going to talk about taking the word into the world. Talk about all of these things that we're going to talk about. We are great people. Our children, our investment, and education, far as I'm concerned, is the way out. And you're going to hear from us. We want you to take notes and understand we're going to bring resources to you. That God, whatever God gives me, I want to bring it to you. Hear this. The community leaders, you will hear them. People that basically know what they've done and what they're doing and how they can tell you how you can do what they've done. Understand, we're going to have great grant writers, how you can get these grant writers and how you can pay them. We'll talk about where is the money. There's no point fishing where the fish is not biting. We want you to fish where the fish is biting. And so where is the money? Where is it? You know, we want to resource so you don't have to do all the research. We'll find it for you. And all you got to do is go fishing for it. There's a young man that I met and had dinner with a couple last week named Dr. Ken Harris. And Dr. Ken Harris, he's the CEO of the National Business League. And so he's basically tied up all around the country of the United States. But he lives here in the city of Detroit. And I want to bring him here and let him talk to you about where the money is and how other people are doing it. I want to talk about the possibility of having a Black Wall Street here in the city of Detroit. I've been hearing about the one in Atlanta. So I want to talk about having a Black Wall Street here in the city of Detroit. I want to bring representatives from government, the federal government. We have a conversation now with the Labor Department. There's so much money in the Labor Department that we can apply for. In the Commerce Department, we can apply for. And in HUD, we can apply for. So these are the things I want to bring to you. With God's help, I want to do that. I want to make sure, my sisters and brothers, somehow, some kind of way, we bring bank representatives, people who work in outreach for the banks and foundations for the banks, and how you can basically get $5,000 or $10,000 or $20,000 from these foundations. And how do you do it? And we'll have people that know how to do it and tell you how you can hire them without paying them up front. These are the things we want to try to help you with. Understand, I remember, Mr. Producer, I had a conversation with Mr. Johnson of Ebony Magazine. And so Jesse Jackson took me to, Jesse Jackson was meeting with him. I went with Jesse Jackson to meet him. I was having cookies on Northwest Airlines. And I felt like that was really a good story. And I asked Mr. Johnson, I said, Mr. Johnson, can I be in your magazine and get exposure? So I never will forget it. And Mr. Johnson, who owned the magazine, indicated to me, son, the only way you get in my magazine, you got to be successful. And once you're successful, then I'll put you in there. I'm not here to make you successful. I'm here to basically tell people that you are successful. I never will forget it. Never will forget it. It didn't deter me. It didn't make me uncomfortable. It didn't make me basically feel like I just give up or hopeless. No. I realized that I'm going to do everything I can. And I think I did make it to Jet, but I didn't make it to Ebony Magazine. I just should understand. We're going to have people zooming people in and out of this studio to be able to help you. All I want to do is to be a blessing to each and every one of you. That's all I want to do, is to be a blessing to you. And God's been good. No doubt about it. God has been good. And I want you to understand, I just feel like we can be a blessing to each other. It's not about me. I'm just the vehicle. I'm the vessel. I have right now a resource to where we all can get together and sit around and be able to try to see what we can do together. I mean, we can put, you got families in your people in your family, and put the people that's like-minded in your family and put up an organization, a nonprofit or profit, and start a business. I mean, we got so many people call me out of the country. I got people that come in from Greece, people that come from Japan and China, and talking about investing here in the city of Detroit. And I understand, my sisters and brothers, because they see the possibilities here. They see the people on the outside see the possibilities on the inside. Right now we have only one hospital that's owned by local, and that's Henry Ford. All the other hospitals are owned outside of the state. That's why we don't have these relationships with them. It's because they basically are owned by outsiders. And Henry Ford is the only one, and Henry Ford is building $3.5 billion, $5 billion, not million now, $3.5 billion, that's with a B, a development on the boulevard. Are we going to be involved in it? If we are, how are we going to be involved in it? They want you to be involved in it. They're trying to talk to you, to the community, trying to talk to people around the community. They want you to be involved. How do you want to be? How can you be involved in it? These are the things I want to make sure you understand, that we're here to be a blessing. I think the time is long overdue for the black church to develop, with God's help, a business-based company for for the generations to come. What are our children going to do? What are our children going to do? I remember when we opened up our building, the senior citizen building on Woodward and Claremont, 9001 Woodward, 68 units. And I wanted my grandson to experience this. I wanted to be able to walk by here and understand and see this state-of-the-art building that his granddaddy is involved in or being named after. I want you that for your children. I want your children and grandchildren know something about you, and not just you with their mama or grandmama or daddy or granddaddy or uncle, aunt, but something significant about you, your contribution to their welfare. Our children need to see this. Our children need to see this. My grandson goes to the school that I founded, and often he tells people, my granddaddy was found this church. My daddy got to say, but you understand, when you say that, you got to let them know you're smart, and that you're smarter, just as smart as everybody else, or smarter. And he's done that at 8 years old. I just want you to understand, my son, brother, these are the things our children have to experience through us and for us, generations to come. When you go downtown, you see Bernstein, generation after generation. You see Steinberg, generation after generation. But when we go downtown, and for the most part, and not with a broad brush, but again, the fact is that where are our generations? Where are our name that our children and our children and our children basically will be able to identify with? We are a great people. I want you to understand that. I've been an African American all my life. I didn't wake up this morning being an African American. I've been in all my life. I know us. I know who we are. I know where we come from. I know how God can take us. He's already done it from the plantation to the White House, through Obama. He's already done that. We got a vice president, African American woman. He's done it for the men and now for the women. To understand we are somebody, and somehow, some kind of way, we got to remember and tell our children that not only can you be a president and a vice president, yes, and that's fine, but there's so many other things we can do and be. And understand, my sisters and brothers, it's out there. And all we have to do is go fishing. But fish where the fish are biting, not just out there. And don't fish in shallow water. Fish in deep water. That's where the big fish are, in the deep water. There's only minerals in the shallow water. I say to you again, as I come to you Saturday after Saturday, through the week, but mainly on Saturday to talk about the church and economics and how we'll bring people in and out to be able to talk to you, give you information, give you direction, tell you their failures and their success, all of that. And so I hope that it would indeed supply information to you, that you give you a sense of initiative, that you want to do something on your own and want to do something for your family. I would go to a McDonald's. I remember seeing this young man that every time I go to the same McDonald's, week after week, day after day, he'll be there. Nice guy. He'd be there, and I said, man, you got work ethic.
Thank you for tuning in to Reverend Dr. Jim Holley Ministries International Presents. You can contact Reverend Dr. Jim Holley at Reverend Dr. Jim Holley International Ministries, 258 East Milwaukee Street, Box 27, Detroit, Michigan, 48202. You can also contact the ministry at 313-871-2800. That's 313-871-2800. Tune in next week where Reverend Dr. Jim Holley will help you to discover dollars for your dreams and bring sense to your sense.
The views and opinions expressed on the previous broadcast are those of the authors and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of WVTC Radio Detroit, its advertisers, or affiliates.
We are WVTC. What is Detroit Gospel Internet Radio? What it is? We're gospel music, preaching, teaching, encouraging. What it is? All up in what it is, the community. What it is? WVTC. In your neighborhood, it's what we do. What it is. Go to your Apple or Google Play Store and download the WVTC Gospel Radio app today. You can also say, Alexa, play WVTC Radio Skills.
Would you like to play WVTC Radio Network?
Absolutely. Download it today.
Hi, I am Pastor Miranda Faye Pope of Holley Ministries International, and I listen to WVTC Detroit, and I want to invite you to listen in.
You're listening to WVTC Gospel Radio Detroit, and we're flowing in the Spirit.